Right. So I appreciate what
Yeah.
you're doing. No clue. You're a corporate lawyer. You have your own firm. You're a speaker, a motivational speaker. Again, discovered you're a professional DJ. And so you're doing a lot of things to put yourself out there, not only helping people, but also living, I would say, a kick-ass life, right? Like you're definitely doing life to the fullest, professionally, personally, and also sharing your journey with others. So giving back. So how beautiful is that? So we're lucky to
Mm.
have you on the call here, sharing your wisdom with all of us. Actually, you know what? It was one of my intentions just a few weeks ago. We've had people sharing their healing journeys, and it was really focused on that journey. And I was like, wait a second, okay, that is great. And most of these people are leading beautiful lives. But the intention that came through was let's find people, let's find guest speakers that are already living like their fullest potential, the examples of what it looks like when you're aligned with your soul's purpose and you're just on fire. So here we are. Michael showed up, and I think the universe is always speaking to us, right? And things are just lining up if we listen.
That is very, very, very well received. I received that, and I thank you for that. You said something that's just, it's one of my affirmations, something I live by. I'm just a vessel to allow this expression of whatever God, the universe, presence, all that is, wants to express through me. So the more that I can clear the vessel, the more that I can kind of, sweep up some of the rubble, some of the blockages, clear that out, the more I see being expressed in creativity, innovation, and service of others, right? Because one is not separate. We are one and the same, and it's a ripple effect. So I'm very grateful to be here. I'm excited to share some of the wisdom that I've learned, and I'm always open for questions and any discussions. Just please reach out.
No, I appreciate that. I concur with the sentiment that you have. In fact, this platform, Healing Conversations, I feel like I'm simply a vessel for the expression of that. It was really an insight one morning that said, Healing Conversations, do it. I created the group without really knowing how this would ultimately look like. And then it started as just holding space for people's expression. And then it evolved because, the message was guest speakers. And let's share not just this perspective because this works for me, but all perspectives because maybe one perspective will resonate more than another, right? And so I feel like there's 8 billion expressions on this planet with 8 billion different perspectives. And what I've discovered is that no one way is a right way. In fact, I was having a conversation this morning with a friend, and we're talking about how I feel like what I am is like an artist that helps people look at their own portrait and use what's there to create your highest expression, right? It's like, oh, this is what I see. This is your potential. And then you tune into that and you create from there what is aligned with your purpose because we all have different visions, but it doesn't matter what this vision is. What matters is what your vision is and being able to create with your own unique gifts. And so I feel like that really aligns with what Michael's going to be talking to us today. But before we jump into introducing Michael, it's about 6:02 and we're having people trickle in. I'm sure we're going to have more people, as usually more people do trickle in. What I want to do is just have us tune in because I don't know about everybody here, but life at this time really does catch up to us. And so we're a little bit distracted. We may not be 100% here. So what I like to do is just a really short breathing meditation. It's really short, just to really tune into ourselves so that we can ride fully here and fully be present. And then we'll jump in with to set the tone with maybe a question to have us thinking about like what the call's about. And then I'll give us an example of an intention or two so that we can maybe start even thinking about what intention can we set that will go hand in hand with the topic today. And then maybe at the end of the call, we can revisit one or two of those intentions with someone. And then maybe we can send some love, some healing, and see like how can we support you with that. The intention of this call is for it to be very free flowing. We want to have a conversation. That's why it's called Healing Conversations. So Michael will lead us in his expression, sharing his journey. But let's get started first with just like a short meditation. I would invite everybody You don't have to. You can close your eyes and just simply take a breath in, take a deep breath in, and hold it. And release the breath. And now embrace yourself and hug yourself and squeeze and say, I love you. Release the embrace. And now take another deep breath in and hold it. And say, release the breath and say, I accept you. Now take another deep breath in and hold it. Release the breath and say, I'm doing the best I can. And I invite you to open your eyes and arrive here, leaving all the distractions of the day to the day. And let's quiet the mind. And let's just be fully present and listen to some words of wisdom and the exciting story that Michael will be sharing with us today. So I'd love to introduce you guys to Michael Espinosa. The topic for today's discussion is turning trials into triumphs, strategies for turning setbacks into stepping stones. Who is Michael? Michael is an accomplished lawyer, an engaging speaker, a career performance expert, and he's also a professional DJ. He's dedicated to empowering first-generation professionals to accelerate their career growth while living fulfilling lives. By cultivating a growth mindset and leveraging our own unique gifts, Michael guides individuals in transforming challenges into triumphs to unlock our highest potential. So coming from a Latinx roots, Michael overcame significant adversities, including generational addiction and poverty. His determination led him to break many barriers, and now he's a litigator and corporate in-house counsel in San Francisco. He even now has his own firm and represents companies such as Google. So very accomplished professional. Michael's purpose-driven journey has brought him extraordinary personal and professional success. As I mentioned, he's not only living a high-profile professional life, but he's also enjoying life even as a DJ. So he's living a well-rounded life. So what is he here to do for us? Well, he's here to empower us, to help us look at our own obstacles, adversaries of life, and look at those as gems, as stepping stones to unlock our highest potential. Would like to have us tune in a little bit. I'll ask a question so that we can start thinking in terms of how can Michael's journey help us with our own journeys. So a question to ponder it would be, how can embracing setbacks as opportunities for growth transform not just our careers, but our overall sense of fulfillment and purpose? I'll go ahead and post that in our chat. And I'll invite everybody to also set a couple of intentions along with this topic. Feel free to use whatever you feel is resonates for you. These are just some examples that I was thinking when I was thinking about the topic. So one would be, and I always like to set intentions and please set the intention, because whether I'm asking God, the universe, source, whatever it is that our cosmology of the world is, I always like to ask politely, right? Not a demand. I just say, hey, please set the intention to embrace every challenge as a valuable lesson, right? Why not? And so please set the intention for every challenge to create clarity and alignment with my soul's purpose. So just some things to think about. I'll also go ahead and post those intentions on the chat so that maybe it can do a little brainstorming. And then I invite everybody to also maybe type in your intentions as Michael is speaking. So without further ado, welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much, Noah, for that introduction. It's very well received. And thank you, everyone who's in attendance today. it takes a village to really raise and elevate consciousness, and all of us here today are doing our efforts to do so. As Noah mentioned, I asked that we just open our mind to whatever is being discussed. I'm going to talk about some things, some personal matters, some parts of my journey, some strategies to help empower you and overcome. I don't expect you to remember everything, but maybe there's just one thing that you're curious about that allows you to dig a little deeper and maybe do some research, maybe find some help and embrace that tool to cultivate long-term change, because that's what this is. It's a long-term game. So as we kind of discussed previously in the pre-call, everything that we experience in this life is a reflection of the lens that we're wearing. And how we respond to those experiences is also a reflection of that lens. Is the lens we're wearing one of fear, self-doubt, lack, limitation, or is that lens growth, abundance, prosperity, creativity, innovation? Usually, and we see it predominantly, the lens that we're wearing is fixed. It is one of scarcity, one of lack and limitation. Speaking for myself, growing up in an immigrant community along the San Diego border, a small community named San Isidro. Maybe some of you are familiar with the Chula Vista area. It's a little more well known. What was taught to me was survival. My parents, my grandparents, they come from Mexico and they were immigrants in this country. And we were a typical immigrant household where you lived with your aunts, your uncles, your cousins. There was no such thing as boundaries, privacy, or anything like that. And pretty much everyone thought the same. So those conditioned thinking patterns were placed upon me and really limited my potential. I faced significant adversity I became a victim of my environment. My environment was one of, I would say, poverty. It was influenced heavily by drugs and substance abuse, alcoholism, as well as domestic violence. And that had a tremendous impact on me as a youth. My one outlet, though, was education. I found education as a way to expand my mind and think beyond my circumstances. So there was significant trials and setbacks that I went through, but it's important to realize that those setbacks and that adversity was actually an opportunity to gain a gift, a skill that God, that the universe, that all that is was trying to provide me with. Now, the problem occurs when that lens that I discussed becomes cloudy and we can't find our way anymore. We end up in this repetitive cycle, this loop of making similar decisions that put us in the same situation. So what do we do when we're so clouded that we can't find our way out? Well, as Noah mentioned, professionally, as an attorney, I'm a litigator. I help people through some of the most some of the most tough times, some of the most crises that they've been through, whether it's a widow grieving of the loss of her husband, or somebody facing wrongful criminal charges, or a person being discriminated against in their workplace who no longer has a job. I've helped those people through some of the most challenging times. Personally, having to overcome growing up as a neglected child, growing up in a traumatic environment, I discovered some strategies that I'm going to share with you today, because strategies and practicality are very important. We can speak theoretically, but I want to give you all tools that'll help you transform your life and get out of the setback, get out of a trial, and actually use it to your advantage as a stepping stone for your success. All right. If you're with me, type yes in the chat. So let's get to our first strategy here. And this takes me back to actually a surfing trip that I had a few years ago in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. I don't surf, even though I'm from Southern California. I know that's like blasphemy for people down there. I went down to Cabo San Lucas and I had my first surfing lesson with a friend of mine. He wasn't a very good instructor, to say the least. He took me out there deep in some rough water, and I still tried, and I got up on a wave, and boom, it took me. I'm swimming up to surface, and another wave came crashing down on me and just sent me in a spiral. I couldn't tell which way was up. I started panicking. The anxiety set in. I thought I was going to die. At that moment, though, it was like I woke up. And that meant I gained a sense of stillness in the water. I just let go. I surrendered for a moment. That sense of stillness allowed me to gain clarity in my mind and body and guided me to the surface. The same is true for us when we're in crisis, whatever that may be. The loss of a loved one. I know we're going through tough economic challenges, maybe layoffs, sudden layoffs, or a diagnosis that is not welcome. When we surrender and wake up, we're allowed to get a sense of self-awareness, which will then guide us into the direction of clarity. So that sounds great, but what is stopping us from waking up? I'm sure you're all familiar with many distractions, right? We see it every day. From the moment we turn on the television to the moment we look at our phone, emails, social media, distraction, advertising. We find ourselves, instead of dealing with the challenges, looking at the challenges, we begin to escape them. We begin to cope with them. We begin to numb out, or we delay doing anything about them. That keeps us staying asleep. And today, I live in San Francisco, and we're in the day and age of artificial intelligence. Autonomous vehicles drive around the road, and it's really analogous to the fact that while the vehicles are on autopilot, so are we. See, we're on autopilot through life. Have you ever taken a drive home after work and not realized how you got there? It's because you're not in the present moment. So waking up allows us to be in the present moment. And once we're there, once we're in the present moment, we get to shift. We get to choose where we want to go. So how do we do that? Well, what's going to help us wake up is shifting our mindset, shifting from a fixed mindset into a growth mindset. All right. From fear. We talked about that. Well, in order to do that, we have to start practicing stilling our mind. A great way to do so is to practice meditation. Simple 3 minutes, 3 times a week. That's how I started. I just sat down before I went to work every day. Sorry, not every day, but 3 times a week. And I focused on my breath. I put on a guided meditation. 3 minutes, 3 times a week turned into 5 minutes. which turned into 5 minutes 7 times a week, and then 20 minutes 7 times a week. And it continues and continues. And the point of meditation is not to control your thoughts, it's to allow you to shift your focus to empowering thoughts versus limiting thoughts. That's one strategy for us to wake up. Another strategy to touch on is the mind-body connection, right? Where your body goes, your mind will follow, and vice versa. So if you have a stressed out mind, your body's likely going to be stressed out as well. But if you choose to go into the gym or walk around or stretch, you will increase your flexibility, increase your strength, your endurance, your resiliency. It will transfer to your mind. Another avenue that we can do to help ourselves really increase that connection is by replenishing our resources. All right. Now, this one kind of came to me after about, let's see. So since I was the age of 16, I started drinking. I grew up along the border, so I would go down to Tijuana, Mexico, and we, at that age, you could drink, you could do whatever you wanted. And that's the road I took all the way until about age 29, 30. When I turned 30, I had an adversity that was a tremendous one for me. I had attended law school, and my dream was to be a district attorney in San Diego. I got to the doorstep of that dream. In fact, I went through the interview process. I went through law school. I graduated. I had the job offer in my hand. They said, Michael, all you have to do on your end is pass the bar exam. Cool, I'll do that. It didn't happen. I failed. And I know Stacy feels me on that one because my fellow attorney there. I failed. It was heartbreaking. Here I was living in San Francisco. I had to move back home to my grandmother's house where I shared a room and continued to study for the bar somehow after being knocked down and losing this job opportunity. Well, thankfully, the DA's office offered me another job. They offered an extension. They said, Michael, you just take the bar exam again, and the job is yours. Your dream job is yours. Well, I took it again, and I failed. So if that wasn't insult to injury, I don't know what was. I spiraled, drinking every day, still studying. But as I approached the exam, I took it one last time. I didn't get the job offer extended. I lost out on the job, but I ended up passing the exam the third try. Once I passed the exam, I took a moment for the first time ever. I did the dry January, the sobriety for 30 days. It gave me a sense of clarity for the first time in my life. That clarity allowed me to realize how much alcohol was limiting me from my potential. And that skyrocketed my trajectory now as a professional and as the being you see today. So that really taught me that when we replenish our resources, when we actually fuel our body with the things that we need and not toxic substances, we end up creating connection between the mind and the body, and the inner wisdom that we possess guides us to our path, our correct destination that we're meant to be. So when we wake up, we can activate this internal navigation system and move forward. This leads me to my next strategy for overcoming trials. We have to take inventory. Taking inventory and auditing your environment will allow you to gain awareness of what's going on in your life from a spiritual level, from a relationship level, on an emotional level, physically, how are you doing? As well as we said financial. So when we actually take inventory of what's going on in our life, we can accurately kind of see where is there room for improvement. Now, some of the best things that we can do while we're taking inventory, and I actually want to share with you where this concept comes from. So, as I mentioned, growing up, maybe I didn't mention this, but my parents were actually drug addicts throughout my childhood. They were incarcerated. My mother was incarcerated for some time, and she was ordered to go to Narcotics Anonymous meetings. So I kind of tagged along, and other family members tagged along to some of these NA meetings for the donuts and for the coffee, but I actually got to sit and listen to some of the things that were being discussed. The 12-step program, and one of the main topics of discussion, or one of the main steps, was actually taking inventory of your life. And that really stuck with me. Taking inventory of your physical realm, your emotional realm, and auditing where are the areas of improvement, and also auditing the inputs that you're putting into your body and your mind. So what are you consuming? I want you all to think of like a seed, right? When a seed is planted in soil that is healthy, nourished with water, sunlight, that seed flourishes, right? It sprouts roots and then sprouts from the ground, and it flourishes a harvest eventually. But when the seed is planted in soil that is not nutrient rich, doesn't receive any sunlight, doesn't get any water, its environment limits the seed and kills it, actually. It doesn't survive. So by us auditing our environment and intentionally choosing to input positivity, whether that comes through affirmations, podcasts, books, learning about ways to improve our life and raise our vibration, our environment then fuels us instead of hinders us. So if we find ourselves in a setback, in a challenge, and we don't know any way out, well, let's start looking at our surroundings. Let's start looking at the people around us, the places, the things. Are we associating with people who celebrate us? Or do they just tolerate us? Are we associating with people who are where we want to be, who have already overcome trials, who have already paved the way for us, who are on a higher vibration? Are we associating in the area where those people hang out? What are we putting in our ears? Are we listening to the news? Are we listening to things that keep us in this fear state? Are we watching reality TV, maybe? Are we scrolling endlessly in a doom scroll on social media? Right? Where are we getting our information? So by auditing our environment, we can then choose what we consume, and pretty soon you will begin to flourish just like that healthy seed. The third strategy that I want to touch on here that is just tremendously important, and I think in the last couple of years of my life, it has allowed me to not just be a kind of one focus being. I've been able to expand my abilities from simply practicing law to being a full expression of this creative outlet that's flowing through me. And that strategy is connecting with the right people. When we connect with the right people, we create community. Community provides connection, and connection is like the spark that fuels change, and not just fuels it, but creates long lasting change because of the support behind it. The other advantage between of surrounding yourself with the right people is they'll provide you a plan. You don't have to go it alone, right? You don't have to go it alone. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just associate with somebody that's already done it. So if you find yourself, maybe it's a challenge. Man, I've just been trying to lose some weight lately, and it doesn't seem like it works. I just always find myself snacking. Well, maybe on the weekends, instead of just hanging out at home, maybe you sign up for some kind of group class that every Saturday keeps you accountable, and you have to show up. You start making friends in that community, and all of a sudden, you want to do what they're doing. You're hanging out at the same places they hang out. You're eating at the same places. You're shopping at the same places. And before you know it, there has change occurred, and you accomplished that goal of being a healthier individual. Or maybe it's we're feeling depression. We're feeling anxious in these times. Very real. There's overwhelm. We're in a state of, political polarity. There's economic downturn, as they say. But how do we proactively create tools so we can combat that? Well, if we associate with people who are on a positive vibration, elevating their frequency, looking at the glass half full and pouring into us, well, then we'll begin to do the same. Some of that lower energy, lower vibrational stuff won't affect us. Here's a great example of that. As I mentioned earlier, when I failed the California bar exam, I was in a very dark place. My mom had mentioned that I should do something. She suggested that I go and volunteer to coach for my younger brother. He has a Special Olympics soccer team. She suggested that I go coach the team. I was against it. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to just lull in my misery. But I ended up moving forward, and I did it. And I was a coach. Wow, did that moment change my life? It gave me purpose. Their energy, these kids' energy, some of them were men, they just loved me. They loved to see me out there. They loved to show up. Coach Michael, like they just poured into me. And I thought it was going to be the other way around. I thought I was the one going to have to, do a bunch of work, and it was going to be a burden. But in fact, because I associated with people who connected with me and loved me and supported me, it allowed me to grow out of this setback and to see the advantage in what community and connection can provide. So I know we're gonna have some time for questions and answers, but I want to just leave you with a few things. These three strategies will help you during some tough times, even when we feel totally alone and isolated. It's when we feel alone and isolated, though, that we have to reach out, that we have to connect, that we get to be of service to others, to change our perspective, to change the lens that we're wearing, so that we can learn the lesson in the challenge, in the adversity. As we practice these things daily, regularly, the consistency of showing up and doing it compounds over time and builds your confidence back up. As I mentioned earlier, change does not happen in big moments. Change happens in the crevices. It's in the crevices where a crack happens and then a break. And what comes after a break? A breakthrough. And it's those breakthroughs that shift you from scarcity and lack into growth and abundance. So while we might not be at the top of the mountain yet, you're already scaling it. Don't forget to look down and see how far you have come. I hope each of you can take something away from this, be curious about one of the strategies, and move forward, improving your life. It was a pleasure to be here.
Appreciate you,
Thank you.
Michael, for sharing, especially concentrating on these three steps that can help us become aware. Just to review, you mentioned the mind-body connection, right? What are our minds doing? Taking inventory of that. How are our bodies doing? How does one affect the other? And things that we could do to get into a balanced, healthy way with both our mind and body. Just to review, you mentioned the second step would be take inventory and audit your environment. What are we feeding our minds and bodies? Um, are we in a lack mindset? Are we really being highly critical and down on our vibe because we're, consumed by maybe watching the news? You know, it's not positive, right? Um, or three, you mentioned the third thing would be connecting with the right people, the support system, the community, the tribe, where we don't have to go at it alone. We have help. So all these tools are things that you were able to use to propel you from a breakdown to a breakthrough. Even growing up in a environment where the cards were, I guess you could say, really stacked against you. You mentioned your parents, your environment, the whole thing was not created for you to have success. Um, I could say that I have probably had a similar background myself too in terms of like financial and people being successful in the world. I literally was born into poverty. I lived in my grandpa's garage, converted illegal garage for many years, right? And
Same.
and I mean, nobody, even my parents, they never encouraged me to go to college, never said to get a good job, never even told me anything. But yet, somehow, I became a paralegal. Somehow, without even knowing anybody in real estate, I was able to get myself into real estate and do many of the strategies that you're talking about. Just really like hunker down. And at first, it was survival. I like your awareness. You're talking about survival versus thriving mindset. I feel like in today's world, we're trained to really survive. I mean, look at the world we live in. It's really survival based. But I feel your awareness is really pointing to the new world that is emerging within us in our society that is starting to emerge by people like you, by people like me, with the awareness, the self-awareness that we can do it differently, that we can thrive. We can switch the context, the narrative. I love what you're talking about. Breakdowns, which is the theme of today's talk, are really beautiful breakthroughs in disguise. Bill,
Absolutely.
um,
And if I could just share one thing, I think when we don't allow our circumstances to define us. Instead, we are intentional in how we want to live our life and the vision that we want to create for ourselves. We then empower ourselves regardless of what's happening around us. We no longer react to the world. Instead, we can observe and respond accordingly.
Powerful there, the word intention. Flo, looks like you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment and say thanks. Thanks, Michael. It's really inspiring. And there's two things that I really took out of what you were saying. One being when you made that shift from actually going into service of helping, coaching these people is actually giving you more value than you're actually giving them. And also from that scarcity mindset into that service, because I often find that I've done that too in my life. When I started helping my clients, I shifted my mindset where it's I had this problem, oh, I don't have any money, or I don't, whatever it may be, that mindset. But then when I had to dig down when I'm in the most pain or suffering in my own life, I know that I have to turn around and then give it back to, the other. So it's really interesting to have that perception, to always remember it's how can you give in that moment, and or to yourself as well. First of all, give love to yourself, but then also, shift into that empowered mindset to take that action. So it's really inspiring to think about how that trial turned into that triumph. And then also taking inventory. You didn't mention this, but when you said taking inventory, I'm oh, what physical items do I have in my life? And how can I improve that? And then the actual the feng shui and the organization. And I always know that when all my things are organized, then my life is way more organized and I can get way more stuff done. So that it brought me back to taking inventory of my actual physical surroundings and my physical items in my life. So thank you for mentioning taking inventory.
Absolutely. And that's spot on. Thank you for that. It's very much received. When our exterior world's in chaos, it's only a reflection of what's going on in our mind, right? And it could be as simple as today I'm going to organize my desk drawer, right? That's it. Or maybe my sock drawer that I've been saying I'm going to do for so long. We don't realize that energy is still flowing in our mind and it's occupying space in our head. Why? Right? Because we delay, or we cope, right? Or we numb out. See, some of the biggest life transformation occurs when we're in a state of pain. Pain is not a necessarily bad thing, because pain plus some clarity, that equals life transformation. But when we experience pain, some of our first reaction, and we're wired this way, is to seek comfort. So we'll delay, we'll distract, we'll cope, we'll take a pain medication. But wait, your body's telling you there's an imbalance going on. Maybe we should sit and listen and hear what the signal's trying to tell us. So we lose the opportunity to transform. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Stacy.
Hi, Michael.
Stacy, thanks so much.
Yeah, Michael's part of my tribe. We met in a new tribe, Aspire for More, that was hosted by Tim Story, and it actually just got terminated, unfortunately. But and Michael's heard me say this almost every week, that everything that was said by the guest speaker resonates 100%. And so much of what you said, Michael, Noe, you said, Glow, you said, were literally my thoughts or experiences that I had today. Literally right before I came on this Zoom, we took a short trip to Vegas and we were unpacking the suitcases. And I said, look at us unpacking. We just got home from our vacation the day before yesterday. Normally the suitcases sit on the futon next to the bed for 3 weeks and don't get unpacked. And we unpacked it and I opened my underwear drawer and I was like, "Ah, I messed up my TMI, but I messed up my perfectly organized panties when I was in a rush to pack my suitcase. And it gave me disturbance in my head because now I'm so content when I see my my real tighted up panties in the drawer. And just before that, I got a pop-up on a really old Facebook post. There's a club called the Decluttering Club that my friend Sarah runs, and she had me on a podcast on hers one time. But she said, just do one thing, 10 minutes, just take 10 minutes once a week. And like you said, today I'm going to organize my desk drawer. And I was so proud of myself because the first time I did it, I said, I'm just going to take 10 minutes and pull all these coats out of the coat closet in the foyer that we can't close the door all the way anymore because there's so many coats in there. My 2 kids who don't live here anymore, all the seasonal coats that I haven't looked at since, my gosh, my kids are 25 and 23. And there were still coats in there that I wore for their sports things when they were in 6th grade. 10 minutes, I had 2 contractor bags full of coats and jackets. And I felt so relieved. Now I open the closet and I'm like, ah, granted, those big bags are in the garage waiting to go to a church that my cleaning lady has said she would take them to, but they're at least out and they're hidden, they're somewhere else and they're waiting to be taken away by somebody. So yeah, your environment, when there's like you said, when there's clutter outside, it clutters you on the inside. So this was really lovely. Thank you. I'm so glad that you told us about it. I wish there were more folks on your episode, and I want to know how I can follow Healing Conversations because I have not heard about it until Michael told me about it tonight.
Thank you so much, Stacy. I really appreciate your support, and I'm so glad that you were able to that one resonated with you because it's very true. If we're cluttered in our mind, then everything else that we exude will be cluttered. And when we create space outside in our, in our living, we create space. It's feng shui as well, right? Like you create space for energy to flow around you and to flow in you. So I'm very grateful for you. Thank you. And Noette can tell how to follow Healing Conversations.
Yes, I just posted a link to receive notifications of each week's guest speaker and topic. But before that, looks like Christopher had a question. Michael, it's in the chat. It says, is it likened to mindfulness flow state, having peace with the way things are and the awareness to influence? Christopher, did you want to elaborate on that? Or Michael, do you have a handle on that question?
Sure. If Christopher, if you'd like to elaborate, feel free.
Oh, no, go for it. I'm just curious what you think of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. And, we hear about this often, flow state, right? What is it and how do you be in it? Flow state, in my opinion, is the removal of resistance and the flowing of the universal presence, Holy Spirit, all that is through you that allows you to create from a direct source. You are plugged in and you are flowing. So the way that we get to a flow state is by stilling our mind, practicing mindfulness techniques such as meditation, such as journaling. Journaling has been a tremendous one for me. I was really anti-journaling. I only started practicing it a few years ago. And since I've journaled, it's allowed the thoughts, the clutter in my mind to just come out on paper. And once I do that, it's out. But even more so, you can take it up a level when you're gratitude journaling, writing 3 things a day that you're grateful for. The energy of gratitude will attract attracts like. So the energy of gratitude will attract more of that. You're telling the universe, I'm so grateful, give me more.
Mhm.
And it gives you more to be grateful for. When you write it onto paper, it creates it into the physical reality, which allows, again, your mind to be clear so that you can then receive the creative energy. I experience this the most now when I am playing music. There's a tremendous difference, and Stacy will resonate with this one because she's an attorney as well. When I'm in kind of attorney mode, and like it's much different than flow state at times, because we're anticipating all the different things that could go wrong, and trying to, counter argument and so forth. So we're very much in our intellectual mind. But when I'm playing music and I take that same mindset of the intellectual mind and control, oh, it does not sound good at all. But when I allow and I let go and I play music and I allow myself to feel and listen and hear the vibrations and just let my instincts and my intuition take over, you are in a state of flow. And I don't have to remember, oh, what song am I putting on next? I don't have to remember it because my intuition is taking over. And that allows me to be in a flow state. So flow state is a tremendously powerful place to be. I would suggest that we all still our mind, meditate, journal to allow us to be in the flow state. You don't just have to be in flow state playing music. You can be in the flow state practicing law. You can. I've done it. It's just a state of focus. It's a state of focused attention without distractions. So great question. Thank you for that.
What a great answer. You stole my thoughts. This was the process that I went through. Meditation completely changed my life. Like literally, I think a lot of us don't know what we don't know, and then there's a practice that comes in. I did the same thing, meditation, journaling, and practicing what my mentor calls GEMS, gratitude, experiencing, and manifesting, which was really focusing my attention on what to be grateful for. What do I want to experience today? What would I like to manifest? And so then the universe has no choice but to deliver that, because energy flows where attention goes, right? The journaling too, you dump all the mental stress, empty the mind, the meditation, still the mind, getting to a place of almost no thought, just peace. And that's flow. And that's when you can enter flow state, that creative, beautiful space. Instead of being cluttered, there's space for that, like you said, the Holy Spirit, that beautiful, intelligent energy that activates all life, sustains all life, for it to operate through us, for us to be that conduit, that vessel for beautiful expression. So, wow, powerful things too. I feel like that right there is so key, has been so key for me. So appreciate that reminder. Um,
I would
is
add
there?
one thing. You brought something up that I have to share, Noah, with that flow state. So we're taught that the more stress we're under, the better we'll perform. I need to have stress. I need to have a deadline. I need to be under pressure in order to put my best work out there. But it's actually the opposite. We perform better when we're not as stressed. So when we find ourselves in this like pressure that we have to perform, if we can just take a moment, maybe it's taking a nap, maybe it's taking 5 minutes, 30 seconds to connect with your breath, you will perform at a higher level. Your brain will start firing different neurotransmitters, different neural connectors will turn on that will allow you to find the answer that you were looking for. So it's a big misconception, and I just wanted to shed light on that no, you don't need stress to perform. Actually, you need peace and ease to perform at your max potential.
What you're speaking to is a paradigm shift. and how life is expressed from survival to thriving is really what you're speaking to, what I see, and great awareness to share with us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're down to our last 7 minutes, so I want to just say if anybody here would like to maybe, share an intention, or maybe there's something off topic that you need support on, this is the space to feel safe. This is a safe space for expression, to be vulnerable, for all of us to collectively send you some love, send you some healing. Anybody here, you just raise your hand, maybe start talking. We're all ears. What can we do to support you?
All right, I actually wanted to ask about the community part. Like I found the community online. Like I'm in some groups in the spiritual community, but I guess my thing is like where I live, like finding community here. Like I tried, like I go out in nature, I go to the parks, I go to like live music kind of things. Like I've changed like everything in my life, but like finding those people, that's where I'm like I'm not sure where else to look. Like in church for me, it's kind of like I don't know. Like I was raised Catholic, so like like I have something against it. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time going there. So I just don't know where else to go to find a community.
Absolutely. And I'm happy to answer that. Thank you for sharing that,
Mm-hmm.
Tina. That's very well received because it's not as simple as people make it seem. Just go find community, but
Right.
is it the right vibe for me? And what about access? Not everyone has access to different communities. I think where you started online, finding communities such as this is a great way to start. Um, Also, one of the best things that helped me was finding mentors who were already kind of in the same space through some of these online communities, or even mentors from a distance, like my favorite podcast hosts or authors. Those are your mentors. You learn from them. They're teaching you wisdom. They're part of your community. In terms of actually finding physical locations, there is like somebody put in the chat, I think, Stacey, Facebook meetups, different groups who form up on a specific with a specific purpose and intention. There are obviously churches. The one thing I would say about that is whatever your position is on religion, think about the spiritual practices. Look for a place that has the same spiritual practices that you want to engage in. Maybe there's meditation groups around. Maybe there's book clubs around. And online is a great way to find them. Also, look for people in your setting who are doing, some things that you want to do, whether it's in business, whether it's spiritually or personally. Usually, people who you see that are taking care of themselves, they may be doing some practices kind of that are helping them. And maybe you ask them a question. It does take you being vulnerable, though, right? And
Right.
sometimes that means when we put ourselves out there, we may face rejection. But that too is here to teach you something.
Mm-hmm.
It's here to teach you that rejection is only redirection. It does not limit or hinder your own worth. You're already worthy,
Right.
right? So just
Yeah.
going out there, trying it, knowing that I'm going to love me the way I am, and you will attract those people. You will attract those groups, but it takes you trying new things. So great job trying to find community, and I encourage you to continue.
Oh yeah. All right. Thank you.
I would add one thing that I did. I feel like spirit was moving through me when I created healing conversations. And just like I met Michael, I have met many of my guest speakers just doing regular life. I actually set an intention for my tribe to find me, for me to find my tribe, for the connections to simply happen. And it has been effortless, actually, I can say. When you set an intention, the universe, God, whatever, however this great mystery, however it is that it works, believe me, and you believe beyond a doubt. And as I say this, like I just feel this buzziness, this wow energy about it, that it will come through, no doubt about it. So just set that intention, believe that it will happen, and it will. Sure enough.
Okay, thank you.
Unwavering belief and action. That's it.
I believe.
So we're down to the last minute. Is there one last expression? Anybody need any support? Any expression?
How are we doing, Luciana?
Oh, there she is.
I'd like to share something or ask. I've been really amazing at my yoga practice. Like the last 8 days, I've been doing hot yoga, which has been so life transforming. But I still feel like I have not been able to heal my gut because I haven't committed to like fasting and just cutting certain things out of my diet. And I just like you mentioned before, snacking and kind of emotionally eating. And I'm super aware of it because I know how to treat my body well. But I find this, yeah, challenging to overcome. So I think I'm just calling in the support and like the right answers from source and spirit to follow my intuition on what can help completely heal my gut, and also to like be disciplined in my choices and my commitment to my full empowerment, because I know that once my physical body is completely healed, then everything else will follow.
I would thank you for sharing that and for being vulnerable. I would offer one thing, and that's, let's give ourselves the grace that you already are doing it. You are doing all the things you need to do, right? Sometimes we have slip ups and imbalances. That's okay. But just like a cork, it always floats to the up, right? Give yourself the grace that I am engaging in healthier practice. And this is something that Stacy and our mentor says, you may not be where you want to be, but thank God you're not where you used to be. And you ride that momentum, and soon enough, you won't, by continuously affirming to yourself that you put healthy, nourishing foods into your body that energize you and heal your body, you won't even have the desire to want to. And if you do, it's okay, right? It's all right. I give myself the grace to indulge at times. We don't have to shame ourselves and add that stuff on top of it. So grace was a real big game changer for me, giving myself the grace. If the universe, if God provides me grace and I can't give it to myself, why is that? That's because I'm prideful. So I want to pass it to Stacy. I know she had her hand up.
Thank you. I just wanted to respond. I'm so sorry. I don't know who was talking. Glow. And I'm just sharing. I had gut issues literally my entire life. I'm 55 and they just stopped because I learned about the glucose goddess method of eating. Same thing, been putting, eating all the right things, doing all the probiotics, doing everything. And I had gut issues from the time I was born until less than a year ago. And it's not changing the food that I ate. It's changing the manner in which I eat it on the plate. In the United States, we graze around our plate with our fork. So we eat the steak, we eat the rice, we eat the broccoli, or we put them all on the same fork. So it's a method. If you follow her on Instagram, she also has a book, The Glucose Goddess Method. And it's just eat the broccoli first, then eat the steak, then eat the rice. So you put fiber first, then proteins and fats, and then the carbs and starches on top of it. And if you can remember, before you eat your meal, have a glass of water with a tablespoon of vinegar. I woke up every day for probably 13, 14 years and had a glass of water with apple cider vinegar, thinking I was doing the right thing. I was doing the right thing, but at the wrong time. You're supposed to do it before you eat the meal. So I have no gut issues. And this is TMI, but I literally am like, did I just make that magic? Just kidding. Because now it looks like all the doctors have been telling me my whole life it's supposed to look like. And it's amazing. No more gut pain, no more nothing. When I go somewhere, I will deconstruct my sandwich. I will deconstruct my taco. I will deconstruct the bowl that I got so that I eat the greens, then the fiber, and then the proteins and the fats, and then the carbs and starches. And it works. It works for me. I don't know if it works for everybody, but everyone I've told about it calls me up and says, oh my gosh, how come I didn't know about this before? Same as me. How come I didn't know about it before? So you can follow her on Instagram and get her book. It's amazing. So it was life-changing for me, for somebody who literally suffered with gut issues until about 9 months ago. So that's all I wanted to add.
That's so awesome that you found that solution. Thank you for sharing. And I'm going to check out the Glucose Goddess.
I was in Mexico at a hacienda, owned apparently by members of the Patron family. And the woman looked like a porcelain doll. She was glowing. She was in the gift shop, and she turned out to be one of the owners. She's a Patron by marriage. And she said her husband is type 2 diabetes and she's menopausal. And I was like, my husband's type 2 diabetes. I'm menopausal. So, and I don't know how we got on the conversation. It was probably the laws of attraction that we're putting out there, right? And she told me about it. And I downloaded the Glucose Goddess Method on Audible, listened to it, then started following her, and then said, okay, let me just try. And almost instantaneously, within days, everything cleared up. And I was like, oh my gosh, because my gut wasn't functioning right because I wasn't putting the food in the right order. So you can't wear your socks the right way if you put them on your head. They're supposed to go on your feet, you know?
Well said. So many gold nuggets, so much sharing, so much community connection. You know, I would like to just take a minute, you know, for all of us, maybe close our eyes, maybe take a deep breath and just really integrate what just happened. And let's send out some love to all of us here on the call, some support, whatever it is that we're going through, just collectively wish the best for all of us. Maybe that little minute thing that might happen for us that will get us on track, that will reaffirm, that we'll see the beauty in those breakdowns, that we'll get into those breakthrough moments, that we'll be able to reframe, recontextualize what's happening, and see the gems and gold in all of life, to use those setbacks as breakthroughs. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Good to see you. Good to see you, everyone.
Good to see you, Luciana.
Such a
you have
pleasure
a-
to be here.
Tina, do I have time to say one thing?
Sure.
Tina, I had a rough time in my life, you know, like health-wise. And I was really lonely and really tired. And one day I just asked for prayers on Facebook. And I said, I'm calling my tribe. And I was so isolated, it was such a bad, dark time in my life. And I just reached out. And my tribe that day is still my tribe today. So if you take the initiative and just that leap of faith and kind of like let it all out. I need help. I need prayers. I need good vibes. I need somebody to reach out to me and talk to me. That's it. Now that we have all this technology, many times it's used for the wrong, but times like this to carry on my tribe and to every moment they're there. People that I haven't seen in ages, came about, and it was like a revelation for me. I was like, yay, I found it, So yeah, that's it. I'm sorry. I know we ran over a little.
Thank you.
You're
Appreciate your
welcome.
expression. Thank you so much.
All right.
Again, love you guys.
Everybody,
Love to you all.
have a good
Thank you.
one.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Peace and
Michael.
love, y'all. Thank you.
Thanks.